HalleluYah Scriptures, Bereshith, Genesis, chapter 48. And after these events it came to be that it was said to Yoseph, See, your father is sick. And he took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Yaakov was told, See, your son Yoseph is coming to you. And Yisra'el strengthened himself and sat up on the bed. And Yaakov said to Yoseph, El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and Barak me, and said to me, See, I am making you bear fruit, and shall increase you, and make of you an assembly of peoples, and give this land to your seed after you as an everlasting possession. And now your 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Mitzrayim before I came to you in Mitzrayim, are mine, as Reuven and Shimon, they are mine. Your offspring, whom you shall bring forth after them, are yours, and let them be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. And I, when I came from Padan, Rahel died beside me in the land of Canaan on the way, when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath. And I buried her there on the way to Ephrath, that is, Bethlehem. And Yisra'el saw Joseph's sons and said, Who are these? And Yoseph said to his father, They are my sons whom Elohim has given me in this place. And he said, Please bring them to me, and let me Barak them. And the eyes of Yisra'el were dim with age, and he was unable to see. And he drew them near him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Yisra'el said to Yoseph, I had not thought to see your face, but see, Elohim has also shown me your seed. So Yoseph brought them from between his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Yoseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand toward Yisrael's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand toward Yisrael's right hand, and brought them near him. And Yisra'el stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, and who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, consciously directing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he Barak Yoseph and said, The Elohim before whom my fathers Abraham and Yitzchak walked, the Elohim who has fed me all my life long to this day, the messenger who has redeemed me from all evil, Barak the youths. And let my name be called upon them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Yitzchak, and let them increase to a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Yoseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it was evil in his eyes, and he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from the head of Ephraim to the head of Manasseh. And Yoseph said to his father, Not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also becomes a people, and he also is great, and yet his younger brother is greater than he, and his seed is to become the completeness of the nations. And he Barak them on that day, saying, In you Yisra'el shall Barak, saying, Elohim make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh. And Yisra'el said to Yoseph, See, I am dying, but Elohim shall be with you, and bring you back to the land of your fathers. And I have given to you one portion above your brothers, which I took from the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. HalleluYah Scriptures, Bereshith, Genesis, chapter 49. And Yaakov called his sons and said, Gather together, so that I declare to you what is to befall you in the last days. Gather together, and hear, you sons of Yaakov, and listen to Yisra'el your father. Ruah, you are my firstborn, my power in the beginning of my strength, the excellency of exaltation and the excellency of power. Unstable as the waters, you do not excel, because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. Shimon and Levi are brothers. Their weapons are implements of violence. Let my being not enter their council. Let my esteem not be united to their assembly, because they slew a man in their displeasure, and they lamed an ox in pleasure. Cursed be their displeasure, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I divide them in Yaakov, and scatter them in Yisra'el. You, Yehuda, your brothers praise you. Your hand is on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children bow down before you. Yehuda is a lion's cub. From the prey you have gone up, my son. He bowed down, he crouched like a lion, and like a lion who rouses him. The scepter shall not turn aside from Yehuda, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him is the obedience of peoples. Binding his donkey to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine, and his robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Zebulun dwells at the seashore. He is a haven for ships, and his border is Sidon. Yisra'el is a strong donkey, lying down between two burdens, and he saw that a resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant, and he inclined his shoulder to bear a burden, and became a subject to slave labor. Dan rightly rules his people as one of the tribes of Yisra'el. Dan is a serpent by the way, and an adder by the path that bites the horse's heels so that its rider falls backward. I have waited for your deliverance, O Yahuah. Gad, a raiding band raids him, but he raids its heel. Bread from Asher is rich, and he gives delicacies of a sovereign. Naphtali is a deer let loose, he gives words of elegance. Yoseph is an offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree, an offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree by a fountain, his branches run over a wall. And the archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. But his bow remained in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty one of Yaakov. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Yisra'el, from the El of your father who helps you, and by El Shaddai who Barak you, with Barakot of the Shamayim above, Barakot of the deep that lies beneath, Barakot of the breasts and of the womb. The Barakot of your father have excelled the Barakot of my ancestors up to the limit of the everlasting hills. They are on the head of Yoseph, and on the crown of the head of him who was separated from his brothers. Benjamin is a wolf that tears. In the morning he eats prey, and at night he divides the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Yisra'el, and this is what their father spoke to them. And he barak them, he barak each one according to his own barakah. And he commanded them and said to them, I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephraim the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephraim the Hittite as a possession for a burial site. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife, where they buried Yitzhak and Rivkah his wife, and there I buried Leah, the field purchased, and the cave which is in it, from the sons of Het. And when Yaakov ended commanding his sons, he drew his feet up into the bed and breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. HalleluYah Scriptures, Bereshith, Genesis, chapter 50. And Yoseph fell on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. And Yoseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Yisra'el. And 40 days were completed for him, for so are completed the days of embalming. And the Mitzrites wept for him 70 days. And when the days of weeping for him were past, Yoseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found favor in your eyes, please speak in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, See, I am dying. Bury me in my grave, which I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. And now please let me go up and bury my father in return. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father, as he had made you swear. And Yoseph went up to bury his father. And with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Mitzrayim, and all the house of Yoseph, and his brothers, and his father's house. Only their little ones, and their flocks, and their herds, they left in the land of Goshen. And they went up with him, both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Ateg, which is beyond the Adon, and they lamented there with a great and very heavy lamentation. And he observed 7 days of mourning for his father. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Ateg, they said, "This is a grievous mourning for the Mitzrites." That is why its name was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond the Adon. And his sons did to him as he had commanded them, for his sons brought him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite as property for a burial site. And after he buried his father, Yoseph returned to Mitzrayim, he and his brothers, and all who went up with him to bury his father. And when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "What if Yoseph hates us and pays us back all the evil which we did to him?" And they sent word to Yoseph, saying, "Before your father died, he commanded, saying, 'This is what you are to say to Yoseph. I beg you, please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. And now please forgive the transgression of the servants of the Elohim of your father.' And Yoseph wept when they spoke to him. And his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, 'See, we are your servants.' And Yoseph said to them, 'Do not fear, for am I in the place of Elohim? And you intended evil against me, but Elohim intended it for good, in order to do it as it is this day, to keep a great many people alive. And now do not fear. I provide for you and your little ones.' So he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. And Yoseph dwelt in Mitzrayim, he and his father's household. And Yoseph lived 110 years. And Yoseph saw Ephraim's children to the third generation. The children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were also brought up on Joseph's knees. And Yoseph said to his brothers, 'I am dying, but Elohim shall certainly visit you and bring you out of this land to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Yaakov.' And Yoseph made the children of Yisra'el swear, saying, 'Elohim shall certainly visit you, and you shall bring up my bones from here.' And Yoseph died, being 110 years old. And they embalmed him, and he was placed in a coffin in Mitzrayim."